I got asked to do this a couple weeks ago. I got pretty excited. They told me to tell a funny story or some personal story about Claire. So I went through, I had a bunch of them. I thought of a couple and went, she might talk about that. She might not want me to talk about that one. That one might embarrass her. So anyway, I made probably a dozen introductions. I chose the worst one. That way I don't mess up what she's trying to talk about. I'm going to tell a quickie that she doesn't even know about. So about a month ago, the day after December 26, 27, every year there's 5 guys that I played with in high school that we get together at River Street Deli. That's a push plug. Go there if you haven't. And we have lunch. And they bring their wives. And so it's basically 10 old people sitting around. I'm looking old. I'm the oldest one in here, by the way. I can tell that. And we talk about kids and grandkids and what surgeries we've had the last year and what medicines we're on. Yeah. Anyway, one of them asked, y'all, they don't understand private school, really. They definitely don't understand boarding school. And they asked, all right, all these hundreds of kids that you've been around from all over the world, do any of them stand out as like the best or this or that? So my wife and I, she said, we did dorm duty for 22 years. This is our first year not to. We kind of, he developed well and he was a leader. And we came up with 4 or 5 boys really quick, about 30 seconds. And then they said, well, what about girls? We went, Claire, end of list. That was it. She was the best one since we had been here. Now that we're prejudiced. We also call her daughter number 2. She's just been a part of our family for 2 decades or so. But she's going to be relatable for you students. She sat where you did 20 plus years ago. I don't know why I brought this. I'm not going to use it. But she was, I think, even if it juices up my story, whatever. I think she was the first ever Carter Scholar, ever. So she sat through the panel interviews you did today, and you're writing your essays and all that, and she nailed it. So we're blessed she came. She chose Baylor. Baylor chose her. She chose Baylor. She came here, and first few weeks, she may tell this, wasn't great. Whoa, she cried every day. Bad homesick. But it all worked out. She excelled. She was, the honor council. She was a leader. She mentored kids as she got older. She was everything you want a Carter Scholar to be. So after graduation, she left, but that's a horrible way to do that. You don't really leave Baylor. You kind of take it with you the rest of your life. She attended Vanderbilt and majored in education. That was a no-brainer. Your calling, whatever in life, hers was to be around kids. Probably breezed through Vanderbilt. That's coming from a North Carolina fan. And like I said, majored in education, then started her professional career as an educator. Went to North Carolina, not Chapel Hill, in Raleigh. Spent a few years there, came back to her home state in Alabama, worked at a couple schools in Birmingham, and she is currently the head of school at where she grew up, the Advent School in Birmingham. So all of that gets us to today. And now she's giving back to Baylor. She's come back, share with you her journey as a Baylor student and a Carter Scholar, which she's got a pretty good legacy here. At least in our family's eyes, she does. She's been a joy. So Claire Cassidy Vaughn is our guest speaker today. Please welcome.
It's always a treat to get to see my Baylor family, but particularly Connie and Gary. I could probably give a 20-minute talk just about that relationship and what that meant. And Gary's right, I did cry. I'm not sure if it was 3 weeks or 6 weeks. And I think I cried all over campus. So any adult that's here right now probably saw me at some point. But 20 years later, I am here with you today. And so the great news is the story ended really well. And tears can lead to all sorts of things. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I serve as a head of school. I do a lot of public speaking. I actually don't typically write down what I'm going to say, but when I think about Baylor, there's so many different aspects that I could share in stories and lessons, and so I did my best to consolidate because you also don't want to be here all afternoon. So it's amazing how being here brings back a flood of memories. As Gary said, I was part of the first Carter Scholars program. I tell people my parents had me look at boarding school. I decided to go to boarding school. They made me stay at boarding school, and I decided to come back to boarding school. So it was very much a partnership in its early form. But the reality is the scholarship gave me opportunities I never imagined possible. And when I look back now, it is always clear to me how pivotal this particular moment, this particular weekend was actually in shaping my path. Today, as Gary said, I have the privilege of serving as head of school at Advent Episcopal School in Birmingham, Alabama, where I myself attended from pre-K all the way through 8th grade before coming to Baylor. And along the way, I've worked in 3 different independent schools. I've traveled the country and the globe in admissions work. I've lived in a dorm as a dorm parent, and I have fully immersed myself in the world of independent schools. And the reality is each of those schools has left an imprint on my life. And I would tell you that Baylor, among all of those, continues to have been the most defining. The Baylor website, which I imagine you have spent a good bit of time on, says there's no one way to be Baylor. So today, I'd like to offer you, the students, 10 tips on ways that I found to be Baylor. Think of this as advice, perspective, and maybe even a little reassurance as you stand on the edge of this incredible opportunity. So, tip number 1, be confident. Let's start with the big one. You are here for a reason. Baylor saw something remarkable in you, your perspective, your curiosity, your drive to grow, and that's why you're sitting in this room today. This isn't just about what you've accomplished so far, it's about what you're capable of becoming. You belong here, and you are ready for what comes next. I still vividly remember my first few weeks at Baylor, as does a number of people in this room, and not knowing many people, but choosing to show up anyway. Despite the tears, I went to breakfast every morning, even if I wasn't sure who I'd sit with. I spent my free periods in the student center, even if it would have been easier to stay in the dorm. I visited the TV room, which I'm not even sure we still have, even though I didn't know who else would be there. Honestly, some moments felt awkward, but those choices to be present, to put myself in spaces where connections could happen, made all the difference. Because over time, those small everyday moments turned into friendships, to conversations, and a sense of belonging. Confidence is not about never feeling out of place, it's about showing up anyway. And it's trusting that you belong even before it feels like home. And I think most importantly, giving yourself the time and the space to settle in. So take a deep breath, look around the room. You are surrounded by people who believe in you. Confidence isn't about proving you're perfect, but it is about stepping forward and saying, I am ready for this. And you are. Baylor sees it, and deep down, I hope you do too. So remember, be confident. Tip number 2, be open to the gray. One of the most challenging and eye-opening experiences I had at Baylor was serving on the Honor Council. I went into it thinking I understood what it meant to uphold integrity, but I quickly learned that nothing is as simple as it seems. Every case was different, every situation had layers, and in those moments, I realized that true leadership and true character isn't always about knowing the answer. It's about listening, it's about understanding, and it's about recognizing that the world is in fact not black and white. Learning to be okay with that, I believe, has made me a better leader, a better friend, and ultimately a better person. At Baylor, you will be surrounded by people with different backgrounds, ideas, and beliefs. Some of their perspectives will align with yours, and others might challenge everything you assume to be true. And that is the beauty of it. Be open to the gray, because that means being willing to wrestle with those differences, to see them not as obstacles, but as opportunities to expand your understanding of the world. That is where the magic happens. It's in the gray that you learn to think critically, to lead with empathy, and to hold space for complexity. Baylor will give you the tools and the freedom to navigate those areas. So don't rush to label or define everything you experience, because the gray isn't where things stop being clear. It's where you start to see the picture. So remember, be open to the gray. Tip number 3, be brave. If you had told 8th grade me, or frankly the first day of freshman year me, that 2 weeks into school I would end up as a Baylor football manager, I would have laughed out loud, or possibly cried. Despite being from Birmingham, I knew nothing about football, which is practically a sin in Alabama. But somehow I found myself standing in the middle of the practice field, surrounded by helmets and pads, wondering how I had ended up there. And here's the thing, I loved it. I loved the energy, the camaraderie, and most of all, the realization that I was capable of stepping into a completely new world and still finding my place. Sometimes the best things happen when you say yes to something that scares you, or when an adult you trust, like Connie and Gary Partridge, shoves you in that direction. When I first arrived at Baylor, everything felt unfamiliar. The dorms, the traditions, the classmates, it was exciting, but it was overwhelming, and that is where bravery comes in. Growth does not happen in the familiar. It happens when you step outside your comfort zone and you lean into the unknown. Because here's the thing, bravery is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger you get. And before you know it, the things that once felt impossible become second nature. So don't be afraid to take a leap and try something new. So remember, be brave. Tip number 4, be a contributor. When I first became a prefect, I believed leadership was about responsibility, making sure rules were followed, keeping things running smoothly, and to some extent it is. But I quickly realized it was also about something much bigger than that. It was about creating a sense of home in the dorm, being a listening ear, and leading in a way that bridged friend groups, grade levels, backgrounds, ensuring that everyone felt like they belonged. And when I became head prefect, that responsibility deepened. It was hardly about enforcing expectations. It was about creating an environment where everyone felt safe. That's what being a contributor is about. It's not just about what you gain from a place, it's about what you give to it. It's about showing up for others, investing in your community, and recognizing that every role, no matter how small, matters. Some contributions at Baylor may be visible, leading a team, organizing an event. Others will be quieter, offering encouragement, listening when someone needs it, making sure people feel seen and supported. Baylor isn't just about individual achievement. I would argue it's about collective excellence. The more you give, the more you'll discover just how much you have to offer. So remember, be a contributor. Tip 5, be curious. I was a senior, I had my routine, I knew what I was good at, and then after much encouragement, I signed up second semester senior year for Theater 1, improvisation and acting for the stage, something completely outside of my comfort zone. And guess what? It was actually really good. More importantly, I learned to take a risk, I let go of the perfection, and I appreciated the joy of simply trying something new. Baylor will give you the freedom to explore, to ask questions, and to step into the unfamiliar. So sign up for pottery or Eastern religions or creative writing. Join the Writers Collective or the mock trial. Go out for crew or try the stage. Ask them if they're looking for more football managers. The more you embrace curiosity, the more you'll discover, not just about the world, but more importantly about yourself. And here's the other thing. Curiosity is contagious. As a Carter Scholar in particular, when you ask questions, when you take risk, and when you explore without fear, you will inspire others to do the same. And that's what makes Baylor extraordinary. It's a place where curiosity isn't just encouraged, but it's actually what makes our community stronger. So remember, be curious. Tip number 6, and this is an important one for the type A achievers in the room. Be resilient. I still remember getting my junior year first semester AP biology exam back. It was bad. Really, really bad. And I had never truly failed anything before. And for a moment, I convinced myself that maybe I wasn't smart enough, that I had somehow lost my ability to be a good student. But after a few days of wallowing, I made a choice. I met with Grant Wood, my teacher. I cried a lot. There's a theme. I changed how I studied, but I refused to let one failure define me. And here's the thing. I ended up doing just fine. I'm not a biologist, but I am okay. You will face challenges at Baylor. Classes will push you harder than anything you've done. Your best effort won't always go as planned, and there will be failures. And what's even more true is that resilience doesn't actually mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's okay to feel disappointed, frustrated, or even overwhelmed, but what matters is actually what you do next. One of the greatest gifts Baylor gives you is a safe place to fail. Your worth here isn't defined by a single moment or grade. It is defined by your willingness to keep going. At Baylor, you're not expected to be perfect, but you are expected to be persistent. Resilience isn't about toughness, it's also about grace. It's easy to be your own worst critic, but setbacks are part of being human, and being as kind to yourself as you would be a friend is critical. So when you stumble, and you will, remember, resilience isn't about never falling, but it is about getting back up. So remember, be resilient. Tip number 7, be connected. Baylor's Jim Pierce leadership trip, now called the Joe Key trip, was a humbling reminder of what quiet leadership really means. At the time, the trip took place in the mountains of Colorado for 10 days of hiking. And to put it bluntly, as my husband can attest, I am not a hiker. I spent the entire trip at the very back of the group, struggling to keep up. At first, I saw that as a failure, but somewhere along that trail, I realized something important. Leadership and quiet leadership isn't just about being at the front. It's about paying attention to people around you, it's offering encouragement, and it's making sure that no one gets left behind, literally or figuratively. And that lesson has stayed with me far beyond the mountains. It shaped how I think about connection and how I think about community. Being connected starts with showing up. It's easy to get caught up in academics, sports, or your own routine, but do not go through Baylor on autopilot. Introduce yourself to classmates you don't know, join a group just to see what it's like, take a genuine interest in others. The more effort you put into building connections, I promise the more you will get out of the experience. Baylor is full of teachers, coaches, advisors who want to see you succeed. They're actually already in this room with you. And that's not just academically, but more importantly, it's as a person. Take advantage of it, ask questions, get to know your teachers beyond the classroom. Some of them will become lifelong mentors, friends, and second moms and dads, guiding you far beyond your years here. And remember, connection isn't just about what Baylor can do for you, but it's about what you bring to Baylor. Your perspective, your talents, your leadership, they all shape the community in ways you may not even realize. So invest in relationships, because when you look back on your time at Baylor, it will be the people who made this journey unforgettable. So remember, be connected. Tip 8, be bold. If you had looked at freshman year me, you probably wouldn't have guessed I'd be standing on the football field years later, not only as a football manager, but also part of the homecoming court. I certainly wouldn't have, but that's the thing about Baylor. It pushes you to grow in ways you don't expect, and sometimes it takes someone else believing in you before you see it in yourself. When I look back, the moments that shaped me here were the ones that required me to take a leap of faith. Opportunities I hesitated over, risk I wasn't sure, challenges beyond my comfort zone. But every time I said yes to something that scared me, I grew. Being bold does not mean being fearless. Fear is natural. It means you're about to do something that matters. But it is stepping forward anyway. It's raising your hand. It's taking the risk, and it's saying, I'll try, even when you're unsure of the outcome. At Baylor, you will have tons of opportunities for this, and every time you will have a choice. Play it safe or take a bold step into the unknown. You might uncover a hidden passion, realize you're stronger than you thought, or you might stumble and learn something valuable. Either way, you will win, because boldness isn't about the outcome, it's about the courage to act. So say yes, even when you're not sure you're ready, and remember to be bold. Tip number 9, be rooted. This will sound strange, I know, well, parts of it, but I actually cried for the first couple of weeks at college, too. Now, you might think, that's odd for someone who's gone to boarding school, and honestly, I thought so too. But when I called home, my mom saw right through it. You're Baylor sick, she said, and she was right. I wasn't homesick in the traditional sense. I wasn't missing my house or my childhood bedroom. I was missing this place, these people, this community that had become such an integral part of who I was. Baylor had been my home, not just because I lived here, but because it had shaped me in ways I hadn't fully realized yet. That's what it means to be rooted in Baylor. It's not just about what you take from this place. It's about how Baylor becomes a part of you, shaping your values, your friendships, and even the way you move through the world. It starts with immersing yourself, not just going through the motions, but truly investing in the community. It's classmates who will push and support you. It's traditions and experiences from years from now will make you smile when you think about them. Some friendships will last forever, some won't. Some lessons will reveal themselves right away, and some lessons will take longer before you realize the full impact. But everything you do here is laying the foundation for the person you're becoming. And being rooted in Baylor isn't just about looking back, but it's really about carrying it forward. It means living out your life with integrity, curiosity, and leadership. It means taking what you've learned and using it to make an impact, whether that's in your career, your community, or simply just the way you treat people. Baylor never truly leaves you. It grows with you. So while you're here, plant those roots deeply. Engage with the community, soak up the experiences, the friendships, the values, and when you graduate, know that if you come to Baylor, you won't just be leaving Baylor after that. You'll be taking it with you. So remember, be rooted. Before I give my final tip to the students, I actually would like to offer one tip to the parents in the room. Right now, you too are standing in a moment of transition, watching your child consider something big, something that will shape them in ways that you both probably don't even realize. And as exciting as it is, I know it probably also feels very daunting. So my advice to you is this: be steady. Be the foundation your children can lean on as they navigate this decision. Encourage them to ask the big questions, to reflect on what excites them, but also to trust their own instincts. You have spent years preparing them for this moment, not just for Baylor, but for independence, for confidence, for stepping into who they want to be. And that work doesn't stop now, but it does shift. You have an opportunity to walk alongside your child as they step into this new adventure. There will be moments of excitement, moments of uncertainty, and probably even moments of second guessing. That is normal. What will matter most is that they know you believe in them, not just in their success, but most importantly, in their ability to find their way. After watching 2 of her kids head off to boarding school, my mom continues to say that encouraging and enabling us to go to boarding school was one of the most unselfish decisions she has ever made as a parent. So as they take this next step, be steady and know that no matter where they go, the foundation you've built will go with them. And finally, for my 10th and last tip to students, be ready. When I was at Baylor, I could have never imagined that one day I'd be leading a school of my own. But when I stepped into the role of head of school, I realized just how much Baylor had prepared me. It wasn't just about academics. It was about leadership, it was about integrity, and it was about the ability to navigate challenges with confidence. Right now, you may not know exactly where your life will take you, but trust me, Baylor is preparing you for opportunities you can't even see yet. That theater improv class, it informs so much of how I public speak with my community. When I sit at the table, I think about how I don't know who these people necessarily are as they come into our different space at school, but I do know how to ask questions and to lead with empathy. The Honor Council taught me about the complexity of gray and the different layers, and things are often not black and white. And probably not surprising, as the head of school, there are plenty of opportunities to practice those skills. I failed biology. That was okay. I fail at things every day in what I do, but I also have the confidence and the belief in myself. The adults and the mentors here stay with me. They're people I still call. They're people that I still rely on. And ironically enough, being a football manager truly has been the lesson that goes to show me you can find your place where you belong. Right now, sitting in this room, it may feel like everything is riding on this moment. You might feel like this decision, this opportunity is the defining moment of your life. But here's the truth. This is actually just the beginning. Baylor is not the final destination. It is the launch pad. And it is a place where your potential can take root, where your curiosity will turn into discovery, and where the foundation of who you'll become will continue to take shape. And let me tell you, what is ahead of you is amazing. At Baylor, you will be challenged in ways you've never been challenged before. You will encounter tough classes, new responsibilities, and opportunities that stretch you beyond your comfort zone. And that's exactly how it should be. Growth does not happen in easy, predictable moments. It happens when you're faced with challenges that make you dig deep, that push you to discover what you're truly capable of. So as you sit here today full of excitement, maybe a little nervousness, know this: you are ready. You are ready to embrace the challenges, the opportunities, the joys, and the lessons that Baylor has in store for you. You are ready to step into this next chapter of your life with courage, curiosity, and confidence. Be ready to dream big, to take risks, to learn and to grow. Baylor has chosen you for a reason, and they are ready to invest in you. The question is, are you ready? Because I believe the answer is yes. You are more ready than you know. So remember, be confident, be open to the gray, be brave, be a contributor, be curious, be resilient, be connected, be bold, be rooted, and be ready. And as you step forward, know this: wherever you go, whatever you do, coming here means you will always be Baylor. And that is the start of something truly extraordinary. Thank you.